Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where you might be wondering what this is doing on the pad. And that's a good question. The answer is I was just like, there has to be a way to see the fuel in these individual tanks, right? There is. It's not part of the parts manager, which is strange to me, but whatever, we can get used to it. It is in what is called the resource manager, which is this guy right here. So we can see how much fuel is in each of these tanks this way. So now that we know that our staging can be done this way, I think that this is a very strange way to do it, but at least it's available. So I'm going to bring this back to, we're just going to recover that vessel. Let's bring this back to the KSC, and we've got 1257 science here, but we also need to figure out what our next step is, because I believe that we don't currently have anything actually going other than we've got our ComSat in orbit over Minmus, right? So let's hop into mission control, and what is the next actual mission here? That's a Minmus landing. Okay, I kind of want to set up our base on the moon, and the question is, what does that base end up looking like? Well, let's hop into R&D and see what we've got available here. So this is rovers, heavy landings, which that will probably want very soon. And then out over this way, I'm wondering, how far should we go in research before we start building the bases, right? So this gives us access to, like, tubes, conical adapters, oversized landing, giving us access to wallabies and larger heat shields, the inflatable heat shield, truck cab. We probably want to be quite a ways in the science, actually, before we really start digging into the base work. We could start building stations, but I'm not sure how necessary that really is. So I think for the moment, we should just grab what we can here and just keep trucking through the missions in mission control. That's what I'm leaning towards doing right now. What that does mean is that means a Minmus landing. That's okay. We can definitely do that with what we've got right now. And it specifically wants a, like, pinpoint Minmus landing, which is fine. We can absolutely do that. I'm just not sure exactly where that is. So this would give us access to the mainsail. That would be a very good thing for us. Let's get the mainsail. These engines here are not, strictly speaking, necessary for what we're looking for. Non-retractable solar arrays. I wouldn't mind getting retractable solar arrays, but these are non-retractable here. Presumably this has retractable. Yes. Static antennas, the RA-15, that's pretty decent. We'll grab that. That also gives us the medium reaction wheel, which we currently don't need, but we'll likely need it later. The air sniffer, huh? Built into a nose cone configuration. Interesting. And do these, this is a radially attached version, presumably these get the same exact science? Yes. Yes, indeed they do. Okay, it's a 2-minute experiment duration. Sure. Let's research atmospheric science here for now, and we've only got 27 science left. So let's hop over to the VAB. Your flight will be... No, I don't want to revert it. I want to go to the VAB, not revert to VAB. There we go. I mean, it wouldn't have actually mattered in that particular case. So let's open up our moon lander here, which should be this variant. Yes. Let's load this, and I want to make some changes to it. Specifically, the changes that I want to make are as follows. I'm going to get rid of these SRBs, and that also means getting rid of the radial decouplers. Then we're going to head down here, and we're going to ditch this engine. I want to jump from not a skipper, but rather to a mainsail here. That's going to be a significant amount of additional thrust to weight. The question is, what is our current thrust to weight? And the answer is 1.44. So that's not too bad. Now, I kind of want liquid-fueled side tanks. I'm going to do 2 of them. The question is, do we want to go 2.5 meter or 1.25 meter? That's an interesting question. Let's take these. Let's put 2 of them on. Something like this. I'm going to go, for now, 1.25 meter. This might look a little bit too small. We're going to go for... Okay, these look minuscule. There's no doubt about it. That looks absolutely teeny tiny. Okay, but I want to get used to how this fuel flow system works, right? So that's reasonably fine. We'll just plop some nose cones on there, and then we're going to put in some of these bad boys. That'll work, and we're going to need to lower this down, of course. So I want to grab this guy and lower it as much as it'll go, but what we're really going to need to lower is these guys. And we'll put that about there. So obviously, these are pathetic little engines, right? No doubt about that. The question that I have right now is, what's this thrust to weight? 1.54? That's not terrible, actually. And I wouldn't mind having some sort of a control surface. So these are stabilizers. Do they have a control surface on them? No. So we would need one of these guys. And I want to put 2 of them on. One here and one here. Maybe a little bit higher than that. About there or so. And then out here, we could put one here and one here. That feels a little bit overkill. I kind of want to just go with small stabilizers out here. Something kind of like that. And then the control surface would be here. Now, that control surface is not going to be fantastic for the directionality that we want it to control. Is it? Because we are going to be having these be parallel to the ground. So this would help us with yaw, but it would not help us with pitch, I believe. So that would be potentially problematic unless we were to roll after we do our detachment, which is a theoretical possibility. Now, we're going to need to strut these together. So we should definitely do that. So that would be under structures. And I'm going to put these here. Yes, these liquid fuel tanks do look hilariously small. There's no doubt about that. But that's okay. I don't mind that here. So we're just going to put this in like this. And then we are going to need to have a fuel line connecting from outside in like that. And in theory, these should burn out pretty quickly, in all honesty. 13 seconds. Okay, that is not very many seconds. That is not very many seconds at all. That is barely worth bringing them. So we may want to pile on some more fuel tanks here. It'll need to go... Why is this not connecting? That's weird. That is very strange. It really doesn't want to connect up here. That's, of course, not where I want that to be attached. I want it to be attached right here. Why are you not going there? Let's duplicate this guy. We're able to do that. Okay, wild. And then, of course, we've got this line here. And I would like to just get rid of that line. Okay. Very strange. Cool. So I guess that's fine. That now gives us 20 seconds, but our thrust to weight is only 1.44. So I think that the takeaway on this is we need to take this up to 2.5 meter size. I think there's no way around it. So we're going to do exactly that. Let's just take that on out of there, bring it up to 2.5 meter, and we're going to have this be something like an X264, something like this. And then I kind of want to have... We could do mainsails out here as well. Cost isn't really a problem, right? So that's reasonably fine. And then we could have this be, like, hilariously large, but I don't think I want to do that. What is our nose cone size? Do we have a larger nose cone? I mean, this is not great as far as nose cones go. I don't think we do. So in that case, yeah, we just don't really have anything for that. Maybe we should stick to SRBs. We can stick to SRBs here. That's fine. And we are still going to have the ability to do our fuel change up here. So that seems reasonably okay. We would then use kickbacks here and here. But we can go down to 2 of them because we've got the mainsail here. So in theory, this would work just fine. Emphasis on in theory. So this guy would go here. This would be 1.85 thrust to weight. That's pretty decent thrust to weight. Let's move these down ever so slightly to about here or so. We'll strut them in. And this is definitely going to be a bit of an upgrade for us. Struts. Struts. There we go. This is definitely going to be a bit of an upgrade for us. Assuming we don't have that tumble, this will be a very solid upgrade, in theory. Okay. Now, we are going to have fewer SRBs, and that is absolutely noted. I think that I'm going to use the small control surface out here. No, that just feels huge. It really does. I'm going to go for the extra small stabilizer, and that's just going to go right there. Okay. Something along the lines of this, but it's going to be a little awkward, no matter how we slice it. And let's just go ahead and save this. This is in the new workspace. It should go here. There we go. So we're going to launch this guy and see how it goes in terms of initial ascent through the atmosphere. It should be pretty decent here, all things considered. But let's double check our staging. It looks like we've got a few empty stages here. So double checking that this is all looking decent. Yep, that all looks good. Okay, we'll overwrite this and let's put this out on the pad. So, we're going to launch this out to Minmus, in theory. And this should be, yep, all looks good there. We're going to apparently not countdown. I haven't figured out how we determine whether we do a countdown or not. That's kind of awkward. Okay, let's go ahead and roll this guy right on over to about here or so. Those stabilizers, or I guess control surfaces, absolutely adding in a fair amount to that. Cool. So we're pretty speedy off the pad, no doubt about that. We're at about 8 kilometer apoapsis right now. 10 kilometer. I want to just continue to go straight up-ish for the time being. But we're at about 15 right now, so let's start angling over here a little bit. Okay. Watching our SRB fuel levels. Okay, at this point, we should go back to prograde. SRBs are out. Rotating. Okay. And now we should head over towards... Oh, hang on. That was spicy. This is very spicy. Put us in kill rot, please. Thank you. That'll be a lot better. We should just head over to the horizon and orient ourselves over here. So we've got a fair amount of speed left to go, but we just switched over into orbital mode. We can see our altitude here is at about 64 kilometers. I'm just watching our delta V here and seeing this go up. It seems reasonably okay for right now, because we are going to be in space at the apoapsis at this point. So I'm reasonably fine with this. That was a much better ascent. It still wasn't a great ascent. Let's just get a little bit of distance here, but all we need to do really from here is set up a nice little burn here to get ourselves into orbit. So that'll be something along the lines of this, although this timing is probably imperfect. What is this periapsis at? Yeah, that's definitely imperfect. Closer to about here or so. Little bit more prograde. Yeah, about like that. It's not ideal, but it'll do. Well, it's actually pretty close to good. So we'll align for that. That burn will be in about 1 minute, and we are basically in space right now. I'm going to go ahead and decouple these guys. We do not need to keep them around. These nose cones are completely and totally unnecessary at this point. So we'll let them drift on off, and I'd like to just kind of spin ourselves a little bit and push them out of the way here. Okay, now we're going to bring it back. And hopefully they'll be out of the way in the next 30 seconds-ish. Hopefully. This one's a little inauspicious. Okay, we're going to warp forward a little bit here. 20 seconds. 10. And mark. So yeah, this guy is hanging out. There we go. He's out of here. Perfect. So that did cost us a little bit of Delta V to push him, but it's not the biggest of deals. This seems absolutely fine. We are in so much better of a position than we were before just by having that mainsail and not having the tumble. That alone did so much. So this is all fine. Note that we did not include any sort of atmospheric science on this, even though we did unlock some. That is, of course, because there's no atmosphere on Minmus. We could get some atmospheric science on Kerbal, but for right now, I'm not too concerned about that. So we'll just be aligned to this position and be watching our periapsis numbers here. We can see that we are pushing out our apoapsis right now, which technically means we should delay this burn a little bit. Well, actually, not necessarily. Look at the T- on both of these. That's both very strange. Okay, this orbital info is maybe not the most accurate in the world, but we can live with it. So we've got about 10 seconds left on this burn. We're keeping an eye on this periapsis for right now. That number is, of course, what is absolutely vital here. Okay, this is good enough. We are technically in orbit at this time. So now what we need to do is get our inclination change set up for Minmus. So we need to set Minmus as our target. And where are we right now? We're currently here. So the ascending node is going to be our point that we want to do this at. 5.7 degrees is pretty normal, other direction. And we'll just get that inclination change finished up. Half a degree to go. Okay, we're starting to lose efficiency here, so timing isn't perfect. Closer to here. That'll do. So we'll align to that maneuver. Looks good. Now, we still only have this singular solar stat. Where is it? The singular solar panel here. Singular static solar panel. That's the terminology I'm looking for. And it's not ideal, but it'll do. We're eventually going to want to have extendable solar panels, and we technically did unlock them, but I did not include them on this flight. Probably should have, but it is absolutely A-okay. So we're going to be starting up this burn in about 12 minutes. Let's warp on to that. We're going to be going into the dark side here. And coming back around. Not quite to sunrise here. Okay. So 20 seconds to go. 10 and 3, 2, 1, mark. Cool. There seems to be a bit of linear interpolation put into the time warp, so when you put it at 1x, you can't necessarily throttle up right away. It feels slightly janky, but whatever. So we've got about 10 seconds left in this inclination change burn. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Engine power off. This should be close enough. 0.0. I like it. So now, of course, we need to go to Minmus, and Minmus is out over here. So that means that a burn sometime around here is probably decent. That is, of course, escape from Kerbal. Okay, let's bring this back. That gets us a Minmus periapsis. That is a retrograde orbit, looks like. Let's bring that guy around. And what is that periapsis? 195 kilometers. Okay, I'd like to dial that in a little bit. 25 kilometers. That looks nice. Okay, so let's align for that. And where in Minmus, actually? Let's focus the camera on ComSat 3, I guess is fine. But I want to head out over here. Where is this located? Okay, this is actually pretty far off of the equator. Noted. In that case, we don't want to come in this close. I'm just going to bring this back a ways, and we're going to put it about here. Cool. So that should be reasonably fine, 925 meters per second. The reason I want it back here is we're going to have to do a pretty major inclination change to be able to pass over this. And it's going to be down inside of this crater. Okay. Well, that should be interesting. We are going to align for this burn, which we already have done, and let's just wait for it to actually be time to start it. Cool. Looks like we're going to be on the dark side when this burn occurs. Yep. That's fine. About 40 seconds. 30, 20, 10, and 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. So off we go to Minmus. This time with the plan being to land on it. I like it. So this is all looking decent, but that thing is definitely pretty far off the equator. It's not actually a problem. It's just, you know, quite a distance. But we're going to have... Why is this saying we have 0 delta V here? These numbers are clearly not entirely accurate, and that's vaguely annoying, but it's fine overall. We know that this is a 925 meter per second burn. This is going to burn off the majority of our remaining fuel in this stage, but once we get to Minmus, we'll be able to do our braking burn. Minmus's gravity is very low, so it actually takes less delta V to land on Minmus than it does to land on Moon, and that's absolutely fine. What is happening right now? We're seeing this 2 creep up here. Oh, this is because this is a little bit bugged. It's okay. I think everything is still absolutely fine. That apoapsis is going up nicely. Keep in mind, yeah, it's barely moved, and we're like 3/4 through this burn at this point, but that's normal. This is all exponential. It's going to go faster and faster. So yeah, it's definitely very confused about how much DV we have left, but that's okay. Delta V is more of a gut feeling than math. That's not how Delta V works at all. Okay, let's just... we overshot it a little bit. I'm just thinking right now, do we want to flip around to retrograde? I'm going to do it. Let's flip around to retrograde here and make a small corrective burn. I overshot that ever so slightly because I was a little distracted, but that's okay. We can just bring it back a little bit. I want it to be more like where it is. So just flipping around slowly to retrograde here. Once we're in position to be retrograde there, that'll be fine. Is this anti-node? No, that's anti-target. Okay. It'd be interesting if there was an anti-maneuver node, but unfortunately that doesn't really exist. That's fine. We're just going to approximate it. There. That'll be good. So that's going to be a periapsis of 1422 kilometers. That is absolutely fine. Let's hop over to Minmus here, and we are going to want to warp to within the sphere of influence of Minmus. So that would be somewhere around here. And there we go. We're now in theory... What are we doing? Why are we warping still? Okay, that was wild. It didn't stop warping. Uh-huh. I told it to warp to just within the sphere of influence, and it gave us almost a full orbit. Now, we will eventually have another connection here. Eventually. But that might take a very long time. That might be like hundreds and hundreds of orbits. That was interesting. No doubt about that. So what do we want to do about it? Well, we could simply lower this apoapsis, circularize it somewhat, and try again, or raise up the periapsis to something similar to this. I'm just wondering why that even happened. That was intriguing. Our periapsis is in orbit, so that's not a problem. The main question is, where would we be if we were to burn here? Anything, any amount of burn here. How much would it take to get ourselves an encounter here, right? So, yeah, we can see that's going to be off by a lot. I'm wondering, how do we add additional orbits to this maneuver in KSP2? Presumably it's like this button or this button. One of these? No, this is warping. I don't want to warp. What's this button? I guess that's change position for the burn. Okay. That's reasonably fine, but I don't want to do that either. What's this button do? It doesn't appear to do anything at all. Okay, that is exciting. So that was definitely a little bit problematic. No doubt about that. I don't see a way to add orbits to this burn, so I think we might just have to warp around. So let's give it an orbit. And let's see, Kerbal is, or rather, Minmus is now here. We're probably going to have to give it one more orbit. So let's give it one more orbit here, and Minmus is now coming around. Okay. So, if we were to do a maneuver around here, right, what would this end up looking like if we were to be out over this way? So it would be out here. That's going to be a lot of DV. No doubt about that. 738 there. Just to get it out over this way. Well, that's definitely a lesson learned. So that's 735 delta V to get us to this intercept. Definitely a lesson learned. Let's do it. We should have enough delta V to do this. No problem. I don't know how much delta V we have left in this stage, but Minmus is not a lot of delta V required. So that's okay. We're going to burn this in about 3 hours. Also known as in about 3 minutes. And we're going to warp forward a little bit further here. Okay, about 20 seconds. 10 seconds. And burning. Okay. So we're burning this on over. In the second half of the burn, it should start pushing it back out over this way. It's definitely bringing the apoapsis down a lot. But let's trust this maneuver node. That might be a mistake. And let's see what we've got going on here. But yeah, in the second half, it should start pushing it back out. It is definitely still working on getting in line over here. No doubt about that. And we're out of fuel in this stage. So let's just do this for now. And continue to push. 735 total meters per second. And of course, we've got lots of meters per second here. So despite that small snafu, it should be reasonably fine. Now, we're going to want to... I'm going to, I think, stop this burn here. And I'm going to start up another burn sometime around here. Pushing us out prograde. I want to change this timing a little bit. And yeah, this is going to lose efficiency because we're in an elliptical orbit. And I want to bring this up to around here or so. Well, maybe a little less far there. Yeah, about here or so. That's just 111 meters per second. So we'll align for that. That's going to be in 15 minutes. Let's go. We can recover this, but it's definitely strange that it warped like that. I will definitely take precautions to avoid that in future. So we've got about 30 seconds to this burn, and 20, and 10, and 3, 2, 1, mark. So 111 meters per second, and this should be recovered. Perfect. This time, of course, I'm going to be a little bit more cautious with how we warp this, because it definitely messed us up last time. I'm 100% certain that I warped to just after the encounter, but it never actually unwarped us. So that is definitely something to think about. Just bring that in a little further. That should be good. Okay, so now we are, of course, going to want to warp. This is encountering Minmus. I'm going to warp to this side of it. We're going to time warp to point. Okay, it brought us out. Fantastic. I'm going to continue to warp manually this time. And I want to put us in the orbit of Minmus. Okay, we are now in the orbit of Minmus, and I want to do a retrograde burn right here until we are in orbit of Minmus. And I just want to have a regular circular orbit of Minmus. I believe, yeah, flipped around our directionality. Did not want that, so this is going to be about 220 meters per second. That is absolutely fine. No problem whatsoever there. We're just going to put this into that orbit. That'll be in about 1 hour. And of course, there's Minmus down there looking very reflective. Cool. So let's just get ourselves into orbit. I was hoping to do the landing today, but then we had that little bit of a snafu, and it's all good. So we're going to warp forward about another hour here. 20 minutes. And about 40 seconds. Where is Minmus at this point? Is that still down just below us? Yes, we can barely see it there. Cool. So 20 seconds, 10 seconds, and 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. So I want to take a look at our resource manager here. We can see that our Methalox tanks are all draining evenly, which isn't necessarily the way I want it to do. I want this tank to still be full. So all of these move over, and this guy, I want to say, in. Cool. I'm not sure that this is actually working because we're burning right now, but that's fine. While that's happening, I want to be keeping an eye on our burn here. Yep, that's definitely coming around nicely. We'll be entering orbit shortly. Good enough. This orbit will do. Cool. So now I want to see what's going on in that resource manager. We need to click start. That would help. Okay, so that looks good. And I'm wondering why exactly it works like that, but it's fine. We can definitely work with it. So it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to land up by this point, but we'll have to make some changes first to our orbit, obviously. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12UK, Kintogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.